informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. We're still in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Yeah, we're rocking the pink.
That's right.
Rocking the pink. We support the fight against breast cancer, trying to find a cure and everything else that goes along with it. I kind of stumbled there because I know it's. I think this month has been hard for a number of persons. We have a lot of persons in our community actually dealing with it head on right now. So it's something I don't downplay, but it just hit home a little bit harder as of late. And I think what we are about to discuss today, Anguillians at home and abroad would have an appreciation for it.
I agree.
In our studios this afternoon, today, whenever you're listening, is Mrs. Jennifer Gums, who, funny thing, we never had one person on this show that has one role, wears one hat. How many hats do you wear?
A lot.
See? I'm not even joking. She wears a lot of hats. But we're going to touch on two things today. One is the Cancer Society, breast cancer awareness, the activities that we're having there for sure. But also we're going to touch on another very important issue. We had a little conversation off camera talking about the non-communicable diseases and where we're at health-wise, stemming from a conversation about me not eating fish because I got poison and our diets and all these type of things.
So we going down that rabbit hole today.
Yeah, we're going down that rabbit hole today because she said something that's actually true, you know. Your food is your medicine in a nutshell. And I think we've gone away from that in a lot of ways. So we'll get into this today.
Yes.
I am going to, of course, take my regular position because, like I tell our listeners all the time, this is Gleneva's show. My lovely co-host, Gleneva Hodge, this is her show. Don't mind that I am sitting on this side closest to the camera. This is all about her. She's the one that, you know, keeps her ears to the ground, let me know what folks are saying, who they want to hear from, and we thank you for that. This is my little preamble, but we honestly thank you for that because a lot of folks now have an appreciation, a greater appreciation for government, the different departments, what they do. They are now seeing how the many tentacles belong to the same octopus, which is what we want. We want persons to have an understanding of how government functions, how it really works, what services are available, what solutions we are looking at, and the impact people play. Because government, like I say over and over, government will never be the 11 elected persons that you vote for election. They manage resources and they allocate resources. That's what they do. And
it's a lot more allocating than managing.
It's just about the right, because then you have the PSs under them, you have the directors, the department heads. They provide a bit of oversight, but not too much, because still the public service, we learn from the deputy governor, has an HR component, which is the deputy governor himself and public admin. So let me not diminish the role of our elected officials. I'll just leave that there, but it's bigger than them.
I think it's safe to say that everyone has a part and a role to play in how government functions,
right,
and to ensure that government continues to function, and that's again is I think what I would like to bring out using this platform is to show that government is an entire entity,
exactly,
as you said, and so with that, we move into the introduction of our guests, our reintroduction, because Ivan, you did a little something there.
I touched a little bit and then I went down the rabbit hole.
So we move over and, just want to say thank you, Mrs. Gomes, for being here and to just introduce yourself to our lovely listening audience.
Okay, pleasant good day. My name is Mrs. Jennifer Gums. I'm the Senior Health Educator in the Health Promotion Unit, Health Authority of Anguilla. So that's one hat. My next hat that I will speak about is I'm the President of the Anguilla Cancer Society.
Okay. Any other hats we might touch on today?
No. Those two, when we're dealing with breast cancer, those two.
Okay. So my first question, just even listening to that, I think we're going to start at the Cancer Society and then walk our way over. Does the Anguilla Cancer Society only deal with breast cancer? I know we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so does the Anguilla Cancer Society only focus on breast cancer, or what is the scope of the Anguilla Cancer Society?
Okay, that's a very good question. The Anguilla Cancer Society looks at all cancers. The reason why we look at breast cancer is because among women in Anguilla, breast cancer is the leading cancer that affects women. And prostate cancer, you would hear a lot about prostate cancer too, because prostate cancer is a cancer that affects men. So being that those are the two main cancers, you'll find that there's a lot of talk surrounding those cancers.
Okay.
I remember some years back, I was a part of that walk that went from the gazebo in the valley to Anglic in the forest in back
Prostate.
For prostate cancer. I think I probably still have that shot somewhere. How is it that year round we don't see, well, at least for me, more of that stuff happening? I'll say why. I totally appreciate all the efforts from the Cancer Society and what they're doing, but whenever the conversation comes up and people like to run on health is wealth and stuff, I personally want to see more walks and more things coming together, because I think those things play a part. I could be wrong. Or is it that men just in general don't want to hear about this once a year because we're so scared to talk about it? What backlash little walls you find the men are put up? Because the women embrace breast cancer and they're going to be there for each other 24/7, 368. They asking God for 2 more days, 3 more days, just to make sure that they're there for each other in case they need to cover something. But the men don't want to have this conversation about prostate cancer.
Right. Also too, I would say that when it comes to breast cancer awareness and the whole month, you'll find that women is on the forefront go. But men, I think, as you're saying, men is a little laid back, because we had prostate cancer walks in the past where we had more women than men.
But
Okay,
that one I went
and only men get prostate. So I'm saying is that even when it comes to health, you will find that a woman would always go and check herself and do things. But when a man tells you that he has to go to the doctor, be sure he can't take the pain anymore. So it's a difference. And I think also too, it is a way our system, because if I can put it this way, persons are in the system when they're small, and you'll find that over the years they leave the system and they come back. A woman comes back into the system when she becomes pregnant. So you find that she has to come for a checkup and all these different things. But men, somewhere along the line, they are not in the system, so to speak. So basically, they only come into the system when they have to...
a problem?
We have a problem. So it would be good in Anguilla if we have something like a men's clinic or men's health clinic or something along that line, that men can know, this is a clinic that deals with situations with men and something like that.
I actually like that. And I think just kind of looking at what both of you said, most times when you get a man going to the doctor, there's a woman behind him saying, you need to go. I laugh and I apologize in advance if this discussion becomes a bit emotional, because when we speak about prostate cancer, I know and I appreciate, Ivan, that you say that you don't see it as often, but I do know that throughout the year, different organizations may hold some sort of discussions. It may not be widely advertised, but they may hold some discussions. I think sometime last month, the Anglican Church, they had something. And the only reason I know was because my dad was a speaker, because my dad is a prostate cancer survivor. And so just even in speaking with him, the way that he speaks and the fact that there are a lot of other men who don't want to speak.
Right.
I don't know, and maybe Mrs. Gomes can speak to the male psyche, or even you, Ivan, the male psyche around speaking about prostate cancer and what it is that, how does prostate cancer affect men? One, the testing for the prostate cancer, because
Digital rectal.
right, the digital rectal, and so
What?
you
The
see?
digital rectal. Okay, and also I must backtrack a little bit. I did had your father over the years on a radio program, and he was very vital in speaking. And I like what you said there, because women will speak out, but men, it's very, very hard for men to speak out, especially with prostate and everything like that. And also too, because over the years we even have found that some men don't even want persons to know that they had prostate, because what happens is that the performance of men, as black men, they want to be seen as persons that can perform, and we're talking about sexually. So sometimes too, the whole aspect around prostate cancer, it's not something that some men wants to speak about, right? So I think I hope I answered the question.
Yes, I think so, because that I know sort of stems, it's, you know, and I think you're right, black men, and they speak about their virility, and they want to be seen in this way, and to be able to talk about that. Somehow in their minds and the psyche, it seems to diminish the idea of that, and even even just to get to the testing, because you kind of paused and you did a little when we spoke about how you're tested for prostate cancer.
There are two tests.
Yeah. And I want you to speak a little bit about at what age men should start being tested, and how frequently they should, and whether or not there is any substance to the fear that they have in terms of what that testing looks like.
Okay. Well, I'll just go back a little bit and say also too, when it comes to health education, I remember I told you my role is a senior health educator, which means that I carry out health education sessions within the health centers.
Okay.
So basically we address various topics: prostate, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, various topics. But I also want to say that, okay, this is a digital rectal exam and the blood test, we call the PSA. So it's easy for men to do the PSA, which is the blood exam. But why persons also need to do the digital rectal exam, because when the doctor performs the digital rectal, which men normally call the finger, the doctor inserts the finger to touch the gland, we'll find that maybe the doctor can feel whether the gland is enlarged. So that's why that is important. And one of the things that I also encourage the men, I have several sessions during the month of September. One of the things I encourage the men that usually when a woman is pregnant, she goes to a doctor, whether it's a male or female. She don't think about, you know, that fear. When it comes to delivery, the main thing that the woman wants is that baby comes out.
Right.
A man needs to realize that if he feels comfortable going to a female doctor, go to a female doctor. If you feel comfortable going to a male, go to a male doctor. But the key thing is that you go and get those checks. We advocate that men 40 and above should get the digital rectal exam every year. Every year. And one of the things, I'm being honest, sometimes I see men in the health centers and I have sessions with them, they're in the 50s and the 60s, and they will tell you that they never ever once checked their PSA. So basically, along that line is saying that men are going down the wrong trend.
But I'll tell you something, and we have a cultural, societal problem that we don't want to address. And it starts very young. You said earlier, men only go to the doctor when the pain get real bad. And you want me to tell you what's one of those contributing factors? Let a boy cry. Toughen up. Your little girl. So over the years, we just get real hard at grimacing. I got a joke for you. I just go to Dr. Gina, right? for physical therapy. And I think South Valley will probably hear me from North Side or wherever she is when I go for therapy. Because I do this a lot. I'm always typing. It ain't carpal tunnel, but I'm walking out now, so my tendons in my neck. She explains to me what's going on. You know how much, something as simple as that. My fingers, these two fingers here, tingle, and I get a little bit of tightness in here. It took me a month tingling to say, you know, Ivan, maybe you should stop tingling. and I would go to her for my back and my neck, and I would not say anything about the tingling in my hand. Because I kind of know what she was going to do. Not that I'm a coward or anything. But I know she was going to do some acupuncture. And I don't know if you've ever had that done. But when she goes into the muscle and she touched that needle and this whole thing, listen, it hurts. It hurts. So, me fearing something as simple as that. Think about the rest.
And men are conditioned, and I'll say this, and I think just to tie in when you spoke about women in delivery and having to, men are conditioned to think that women are built to take pain.
Yes, you guys are.
As if
your threshold is more.
Our threshold is more, we're built, and so it's strange because I don't get the correlation between thinking that women are built to take pain, that we are built for pain.
No, I didn't say built for pain.
No, but we must be built for pain if we are expected to deliver a child, Ivan.
No.
So we must be built for pain. But I think you expect a woman to express that pain, and that a man isn't supposed to express the pain that he's in.
Listen, I think the problem is, at least in my state,
Okay.
I know I just scream down Dr. Gina office. I don't have a high pain threshold. That's why I don't handle it.
Oh, you don't want nobody to know that you scream it?
No.
Oh, okay.
So like my appointments are when people leave. So it's just her and Lisa would know that I can't take pain. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
I wanted to jump then to the flip side. And here's the reason. For prostate cancer, to check for prostate cancer, a digital rectal exam. That is what's done. But to check for breast cancer, women undergo, well, you have the self-check exams and you are expected to do those. But for diagnosis, we go to and we do mammograms. And I am not yet of the... Am I yet of the age? And I think we start there. Am I yet of the age where I should start getting mammograms? I know we're supposed to do our self-check every month. But what age are women supposed to start with mammograms?
We also advocate 40 and above. And now that you say that too, because women can do the breast exams, and they can also do the clinical breast exams. And before I go, just remind me that I have some dates where we're going to be doing some clinical breast exams at the 3 health centers that I want to share with the...
You can tell us now and again after.
Yeah, and we can definitely ensure that we get that up on the screen for those who are going to view.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so we have free clinical breast examinations on Friday the 21st, which is Friday this week. On the 21st of October, we will have clinical breast examination at Central Polyclinic, where we call the Valley Clinic, and that will be starting at 10. Okay? Western Polyclinic, located at South Hill, that will be on Monday the 24th of October, starting at 1 p.m. On Tuesday 25th of October, that's at Welch's Clinic, located in Welch's, that would be starting at 10 a.m.
Okay,
so
and it's free, like you said.
They're free.
You make appointments
they're
where?
free,
How?
and it's...
How do you make appointments?
We're going to
be doing walk-in. We're going to be doing on a first-come, first basis. Because that would be avoid person saying, okay, I call, and, you know.
Right.
So we want first-come, first serve basis, and they will be free.
Okay. So
and it will be done by a doctor.
Okay,
free,
repeat those dates again.
Free doctor appointment, first come, first serve. Free, we are say free again.
Free.
Because normally on this show, right, people come on this show to ask for money from the different government departments. So they look in the camera, it actually pops up.
Free. so let's repeat those dates again, just so that persons have them.
Central Polyclinic, also known as, a lot of people know it as Valley Clinic. That will be on Friday the 21st, starting at 10 a.m.
Okay.
On Monday the 24th, that will be at Western Polyclinic, which a lot of persons know as South Hill, and that will be starting at 1 p.m.
Okay.
On Tuesday, 25th of October, starting at 10 a.m. That would be at Welch's Polyclinic, located in Welch's.
Okay. All right.
So everyone has an opportunity. Those living in the east, those living central, those living in the west.
Right.
So I can definitely appreciate that, because I one of the reasons I asked you to repeat was also so that our listeners can hear it, so that I can also hear and kind of figure out in my schedule which day I'll go, because I think it is important.
Yeah.
And what will be happening at the clinics those days? What can you expect going in?
Okay, so what you can expect going in is the doctor would actually perform the breast examination, because a lot of times persons self-check, but another thing is, so even sometimes when persons self-check, they can do it the wrong way, because sometimes what I do is, even when I have health education sessions, I teach persons how to check their breast, because sometimes when you go around the breast, depending on how you go around the breast, you can miss spots. All right, so you do it yourself, you're familiar with your breast, but it's also good for a health practitioner to actually do it, to have a second opinion, so to speak.
You know, one of the things you have not touched on here is the fact that men can get breast cancer too.
Correct. Yes, men can get breast cancer too.
So how can they do that self-check?
So they can do the same self-check like what women do the self-check.
Okay, what are they checking for?
They're checking for any lumps that is there, that some persons actually have breasts that has lumps. Don't get me wrong, but you're actually checking for something that because if you're familiar with your breast, you know that something wasn't there before, or you realize, okay, you know that my breast is lumpy, but this feels bigger than before. Another thing is too, what we tell persons to do is practice looking at yourself in the mirror, which means you look at your two breasts, and then you would realize whether or not looking for any dimpling, or if you have any discharge coming from your nipple, inverted nipples, or anything that you know that wasn't there before, or you have the breast in the breast is like a peel of an orange, you know how rough it looks. So you look at all, you find any of those changes, is some kind of concern. A lump doesn't mean that it's cancerous. I want persons to know, because sometimes when people find a lump, the first thing that they do is fear.
Right.
But it's always a sign that it said that you need to get it checked out.
Okay, totally understand.
Okay?
Okay, so we said we have self-check exams, you have the clinical
Breast examination.
and that's the one that's done by the doctor. And then we have
the mammogram.
The dreaded mammogram.
Why you say dreaded?
And it's dreaded because anybody who's had a mammogram will tell you it's painful. And I would like for Mrs. Gomes to sort of walk us through what that looks like. And I wanted to make the comparison between
the finger,
yes,
and
versus a mammogram.
Right. Okay, for some persons it is painful, and being honest, sometimes it is, I must admit, because basically what it is that you have like two glass, but you have one on the top and one on the bottom. What the technician actually does is bring the breast between the two, and it comes down and like a clamp, and then it releases. So sometimes when it clamps down, you feel that pain, and then it releases, and then they do, and it's not only one; it has to do it on both. So that's what Gleneva is saying, that it's a little more. How to say it could be on a little painful side more than for the men.
Okay, men, I think we don't want anything coming down and clamping anything, so it's probably not as bad.
Yeah, it's not as bad.
So I've had it like in the mammogram. So, like a photocopier, you know, when you have to lift up and you close. Someone also mentioned it closes and then they have to rotate. Sometimes, no?
Okay, I had one, but mine did not rotate. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, what you can do too is that if I want to put this piece in here too. If you find that you have lumpy breasts too, what you can do is that when you do the mammogram, you can also do a sonogram, where you know how they put on the liquid and yes. So basically, most likely for something that maybe the mammogram did not pick up, maybe the other examination can pick up.
Let me ask a question before we dig any deeper into this. Like, how can one avoid breast cancer, prostate cancer? Or can you not avoid it?
I would not say that. I would not go to the extreme to say avoid, but we use the word prevent.
Prevent.
And one of the things is that diet and exercise is key. Yes, a lot of times persons have a family history, right? So basically, family history puts you at more risk for these diseases. If you had a grandfather, a father, a mother, those kind of things, it puts you at risk. But also too, we need to realize that we all have the responsibility for our health.
Okay.
One of the things too, if you look at the way that we eat versus years ago, because years ago they had prostate cancer years ago, because one of the things I have learned over, because I don't only teach education, but I learn from other people, and the older persons would tell you that the men in those days, or the old people in those days, used to call it stoppage of water. So basically they had a name for it, but they didn't know it was prostate. It's only that years after they put a name to it. But they would say that the gentleman had stoppage of water. So basically, years ago, this was a problem. But we need to realize that when it comes to our health, we need to start eating healthy. Yes, some people say that eating healthy is expensive, but the doctor bills is expensive too. So we need to be able to weigh the cost, because years ago, most of our fruits used to be I think y'all call them pumps, right? And Barbados we call them dunks. Y'all would call them guineas. We call them Barbados akis. The guavas, we used to call the golden apple, the gooseberries, and all these different things. I remember cherries. So you remember the vendors that come into the school in those days used to be persons selling those kind of stuff. I'm telling you, sugar apples, those kind of things. I remember we call it the fat pork. I don't know, I think y'all have a different name for it.
Cocoa plums.
Right. So basically those things you used to be eating. Yes. You used to be eating
that's a backstory. I'll give you that one.
Eating along those lines, right? But today is the sweets.
Today is the pizza, the brow soda, the Busters. I gotta say this every single time. I
think we mentioned this.
Yes, we did.
That probably play after, but yeah.
It's back to it again. We touched on it several times. I'm not trying to get in the way of anyone trying to make a dollar.
Right.
But this is why I appreciate the school feeding program that just started.
Me too.
You go outside to pick up your children, and it's 10-15 bucks of pizza. Where cheese come from? Okay, milk. Okay. I used to reason with a Rasta man a lot when I was in school in St. Thomas. Vince, shout out if you listen to this program. And he constantly used to talk about the things that we put in our body. And the dairy products and the things like even the excessive eating of meat that's now processed totally differently. Pumped with all these steroids and these hormones to come to size, not age, to come to size faster for market and those type of things. And like, how can your body process these things? I mean, God did an excellent job. He gave you a liver, he gave you this, he gave you that. And he's sovereign and he knows all things, but I don't think we meant to process red dye 40 and all these things that we have our children consuming. Whatever happened, listen, even Kool-Aid I think is bad, because I learned that the crystals sometimes don't think and they get trapped in your prostate and could lead to issues.
We still do Kool-Aid?
I don't know if they do Kool-Aid anymore, but I remember you could have get like a real passion fruit juice, you know, the homemade stuff. Life was simple. Life was excellent. Life was great.
I think we still do Kool-Aid, because those busters and all those things is still dye in water. And I would tell persons, before you go and drink a buster and all those things, go and get 2 lime and with a little sugar and make lemonade. Because at the end of the day, you would know how much sugar to put in. I'm not telling you to go and put in a lot, but at the end of the day, that's more nutritious than getting the dye and the water. Another thing is too, one of the things that we need to realize, that sugar feeds cancer. I was listening to, I remember before we came on air, I was telling you that one of the ladies from Angola, she was sharing her testimony some days ago about her experience in Colombia, and she was going back to before she get diagnosed. She said that she was craving a lot of sweets, and we need to realize that sugar if you keep doing research all the time, it points back that sugar is very, very dangerous. And one of the things that we find that persons love a lot of sugar, even with us, I mean, we allow our children to make their own breakfast and tea and everything. How we know how much sugar they put in there? And children love to pour the sugar in.
Yeah, you best believe that. You get it to the bottom of the bowl when they're making cornflakes. You know?
But you shouldn't be putting sugar in cornflakes, you know?
You shouldn't be eating cornflakes, but that's a different story.
But I kind of wanted to go back a little bit. So
yeah, because
no, actually, staying there a little bit, but then I'm going to go back. Do you think it's also cultural? And I'm going to ask that because I spent some time in some other Caribbean islands, in Barbados in particular.
Oh, that's how you knew.
And no, that's not. But I noticed, whether I've been in Barbados, I've been in St. Lucia, I've heard about Grenada and how things are there. But the way that people speak about the availability of fruits and natural items in that, whereas here we import a lot of it, thus increasing the cost, thus putting it out of range for persons. And yes, I can appreciate you either pay here or you pay there. But do you think it's also cultural, the way how we have moved? A lot of times, I'll say this, at home, I get accused often where I'm told I cook American, whereas my partner will cook very Caribbean.
So you don't have no provisions in your food?
No. Listen, I've recently, my dad would be shaking. He will tell you, I try to teach her. But I'm now learning about Tanya and Dasheen.
No?
And that's
so
not
to
no, but that's not to say that I didn't grow up in a household where those things were. I just didn't eat them. No, I'm being very honest. Yeah. And so that's why I'm asking about culture.
I agree.
And culturally, we've been much more Americanized. Where you're eating the
macaroni and cheese.
No, I ain't doing that. But you're getting a white potato as opposed to this. No, I personally prefer sweet potato. But that's because I grew up with my grandmother pulling them out of the ground and going out and helping my grandmother pull those out. But the other stuff, no, it's more of a white potato than you get a Dasheen. My dad cooks soup. I scrape into the soup to make sure I ain't putting up on a 10-year, but I want a white potato. Right? So I wanted to know how much culture influences where we are at, because I think we're speaking about cancers and we're hearing younger and younger persons getting cancer, dying from cancer, so getting chills about it, because we have persons just within this year, some very young persons, persons in their 30s dying from cancer in Anguilla. And we're saying that you don't start to do some of those mammograms and those other things until you are at the age of 40. But we're seeing those cancers become more prevalent in younger persons. How much does our culture play into that?
Okay, also too, I want to say this, that I've heard from several of those persons that were diagnosed this year, and one of the things that a younger person would also tell you is that with the self-examinations, they have detected that something was wrong, especially when it comes to the breast. Because with self-breast examination, if you doing your monthly checks, and most of the time we tell persons, wait till your menstrual cycle is over, and then, maybe a week after, whatever, you check your breast. And then you will realize. Also, too, when you detect that something is wrong. Because I can say, as the president of the Anguilla Cancer Society, over the years, we started in 2012. And over these years here, I think 2022 has been the year that I have seen much more younger persons being diagnosed with cancer. And it is really sad, because we're not only talking about breast, we're talking about colon, we're talking about different cancers.
But they're going to blame the vaccine, though.
No, but this has not a thing to do with the vaccine.
I wanted you to make that clear, because it just don't spring on you like that. Like, everything I've heard in the conversation thus far is you had to be making checks. And from what I know, cancer is something that grows.
Right.
And from what I know, like Gleneva is saying, when you look at how we eat again, and how what we consume. People think that sugar is just in the juices. The pizza dough, the sugar is in there. You know, when you eat out a lot, when you eat on the road, it's in there. People consume a lot of Chinese food.
Right.
What does the MSG have in? What like there's a lot of factors that go into how we have quickly gone to reducing the age that you should be honestly looking out and checking.
Right. And also too, I feel that over the years the production of food, the fast production of food has come to drastic measure with persons. May I ask a question so you can understand? Okay, food comes into Anguilla. Is there a place where you can say, you know, these foods are not good for you? Everything that comes in here, we just eat.
Thank
you know,
you.
and another thing, we don't check our labels. One of the things that we tell persons to do, go at the back of every product and check your label. When we go into the supermarket, we just go and take up things and we walk out. We need to start reading our labels. If you see some of those juices, they will say, okay, let's draw a reference so you can understand. Okay, the little small Welch's juices that people buy for parties or children. You know, at the back of that Welch's juice has 30-something grams of sugar. That small little juice, you know. And then sometimes if you don't be careful, down below it says added sugar. So they give it a sugar on top and they say added sugar. So when sometimes you read the ingredients and you say sugar is the first ingredient, it means that thing make up of nearly all sugar. So we have to be very, very careful in the way that we eat, because sometimes all we're doing is pumping these things into our children. How many persons buy Welch's juices for their children? Nearly everybody that has
and
a party.
And the Capri Sun then too. Because, that's the right size, them children to drink this.
But I think we kind of touched on something that I've been concerned about for a while. Food standards and what is appropriate for consumption in Anguilla. And I this may not be the right conversation, but it's here and it's on the table and we're going to speak about it.
Okay, are you sure?
Yes, we're going to speak about it because a lot of our food is imported from the US.
Not anymore.
The majority of our food, no matter which nationality is selling that food, the majority of our food is imported from the US.
Through the US, I would say.
I'll explain why I'm saying that. There are a number of food items that are sold within the US that will never ever be approved for consumption in the EU or the UK.
Correct.
I agree.
Will never.
Agree.
There's a particular item. I haven't seen it in a while, but there's a particular item. And Jemima's syrup. I'll tell you, because I'll make pancakes, right? You know, you want a little syrup on your pancake, as opposed to some maple syrup and some honey. But when you look at it, it says for export only. And to my mind, I go, why? Why is this item for export? It's made in the US, but why is it for export only? Is it not fit for consumption there? Is it for customs purposes? Because I know that there are some trade purposes and what's not. But I think we do need to take a deeper and a greater look at what we think is appropriate and deemed appropriate for consumption in Anguilla.
I wholeheartedly support that. And if I add, I know exactly you were going that way with the products from the US, but what I've seen as of late is almost a parallel or an evening of the products from other places as well. Right now you have persons...
Not the EU.
Not the EU for sure.
I just want you to lay that out there.
Not the EU for sure where there are standards, but I'm saying... No, and I understand that there are standards, there are strict standards. But I'm saying we have persons going to the store and shopping by sight. They never used to read before, but we can't read what's on the packaging now.
No, because it's too small. And sometimes, if you look at the packaging, sometimes it has so much writing. And sometimes you don't even understand half the things that is said there.
And I think what Ivan is saying is that it's in a different language.
That correct. How are we allowing this? How are we allowing this? And I know you've been asking, and at some point we gotta get customs here. At some point when we get the Honorable Premier, Dr. Ellis Lorenzo, back, we'll ask about this from a health perspective.
Correct.
But you are absolutely
and
right.
And economic development. I know we have
Yes.
PS Chanel Peter Barrett, and diverging here a little bit because Ivan would like to say that I met her in the streets and but it really was about that bit that needs to come, and consumer protection is one of those areas that covers this. So yes, because those are things that I hope that we can get into.
Let me put on record, people think that when you're talking consumer protection, it's just about the price in the stores. No. There's a lot of fake products coming around here. Fake Heineken, fake Hennessy.
Things that you should not be drinking, especially when we're now speaking about health and our
but they're drinking out there
and good health.
Also, too, we need to realize that even when persons talk about the beers and all those things, you need to go back to the basics and say what those things were made from. Those things were made from sugar cane. So basically, it goes right back to the basics. And we're not only talking about sugar cane, but we're talking about the dyes and the salt and everything. Because our leading chronic disease is hypertension followed by diabetes. And when you have all these complications on the body, you have problems. Okay. Don't let me forget to mention the walk, the breast cancer walk, which will be on Friday.
Friday the 21st.
So maybe I can mention it now.
Yes.
Friday the 21st at 4 p.m. We're going to be starting at the gazebo in the valley. And we're going to be going to the Little Dix roundabout and back.
So ladies and gentlemen, that's tomorrow, because this show is going to air on Thursday. You're listening to us on Thursday. Tomorrow,
Friday the 21st at 4 p.m. we're going to be starting at the gazebo. We're asking persons to come out in their pink. But if you want to rally among somebody that has prostate, whether it's colon or whatever, we're going to say support the cause and come out, and we're going to be leaving that there at 4 p.m. We're going up to the Little Dix roundabout, and we're going to be coming back.
Do you have a police escort?
We don't need a police escort.
People pay attention to the pink shirts.
Yes.
I just thinking because that kind of come around their little shop.
But persons, so not only the persons going on a walk will hear this, motorists will hear this, and they know to look out.
Look out, please look out. Because this is going to be a big walk.
Yes.
I'm hoping so.
No, I'm telling you it's going to be a big walk.
I wanted to get back a little bit to the breast cancer, and we spoke about some of those contributing factors. We spoke about diet. We spoke a little bit about genetics, and I wanted to get there. I think it was a few years ago, for persons who follow pop culture. Angelina Jolie, she did a double mastectomy.
Correct.
Because she found that she had that gene. It's
BRCA1 and BRCA2.
Good. Is that something that we can test for here?
I would be glad. I'm not sure, but I would be happy if it's something that we can do. I'm not sure if the insurance would cover it, but she realized that she had the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, and she realized that her mother had breast cancer. So what she did is she decided to take off both of her breasts, especially if you had children before, because most likely that's what breast is there for, to feed the baby. If you already have children before and you realize that you have the gene, you proceed in doing certain things like that.
Okay. Is that something, because I know that, at the time that she did it, there was some backlash within the medical community, and some felt that it was a bit premature of her to do so. Do you think that persons need to necessarily take that drastic step, or is it that you see that, okay, you are predisposed because you have the BRCA1, the BRCA2, that it just means that you need to check more often?
Right. Okay, people have their own opinion, and I respect their own opinion, but to me personally, I agree with her. Okay. She had a gene and she realized, okay, I don't have my children or whatever, take them off. Because at the end of the day, as your body changes, anything can happen. I know of a lady even from here in Angola. She came down with colon cancer. It was at the early stage, and she did the surgery. But when she went back the following year now, it has mutated, and it is sad. And another thing is too, a lot of times when some persons find a lump, they do a lumpectomy instead of doing the mastectomy and taking off the whole breast. And then what can happen, it can come back and spread, and then sometimes some person may have one breast and now the other breast is a problem. This is just my view. If you have both off, you don't have to worry about it. That's just me.
But we know, just like how we spoke about, men with the prostate and how that is linked to how they're seen and the virility, and we do know that the breasts are the function of the breast is for breastfeeding and for having children, but there's still that societal aspect.
Culture.
And cultural aspect of what breasts mean to women and women in society and to men. if we're being very, very honest about it. Right. And so those discussions, it also plays in, I think that's a good segue. It also plays into your mental health. Correct. And how you deal with that. How do we deal with the mental health of our cancer survivors or cancer patients and their caretakers? Because I know that takes a huge toll on persons.
One of the things that we look at is not only for the support of the person who's actually going through the cancer, but also for the relative, because sometimes the relatives take it on even more than the person who's actually going through it. Because a lot of times persons see cancer as a death sentence. From the time you hear cancer, that's one of the first things. And it could be very frightening, But one of the things too that over the years that we have been looking at too, and we need to pay a little more attention, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Gleneva, is that we need to look at persons, because sometimes some of these persons have little children. I know about a cancer survivor here in Angola. She was diagnosed after she had a little baby. I know about 2 persons here that was diagnosed with breast cancer after they had a little baby. So basically, you have the husband, you have the children, and you have a little baby, and you still have to deal with yourself. So sometimes it could be very, very detrimental in terms of how people cope and everything like that. So this is why I'm asking persons to even come out to the walk, because it takes a whole village, the whole culture, everybody together, working together. Because if persons know that, let me just run a reference, even in a family, if a person is going through something and they know that they have the backing of their family, they feel more supportive. And this is why we need to realize we are just a knitted society. And that's why we need to realize that, look, you are not in this fight alone. We are in this fight with you together. And this is one of the things that we need to realize with cancers, because one of the things we say, cancer has no face, right? Sure. And you can't always look at cancer can happen to somebody else and not you. It could happen to anybody. So this is one of the things that we in Angola Cancer Sisters support the cause. And we really want to thank those persons. If I start calling names, I know we're going to get in trouble. But I really want to thank all those persons over the years who have supported the Angola Cancer Society, because it's a non-profit organization. All the funds that we use to over the years to help other persons, especially persons who are uninsured and unemployed. We have helped some persons who have insurance over the years but maybe not had enough money, but most of the persons that we help are persons who are uninsured and unemployed, and cancer can take a lot of money. So we want to tell persons over those who have supported the Angola Cancer Society over the year, big thank you, because every cent has helped to help someone.
How do persons support the Angola Cancer Society?
It's very, very easy. Just write us a check or ask us for the account. We have 2 accounts at NCBA, and you can put the money there.
Okay, and corporate sponsors, if they feel like you can donate any time of the year.
Right, right. We have had some support over the years from, I'm not going to get in trouble, but we have had some support over the years from various entities, Scotia, First Caribbean, Anglec, several organizations have come to the cause, Alliance Insurance, you name it. A lot of persons has helped us over the years, and we really want to thank them, because when we have prostate cancer checks, that comes from the money. When we have mammograms, that come from the money. When we have pap smears, those things come from the money. So we're asking persons to support the cause, because even when we had the COVID and we had the shutdown, when we had that health fear, there were so many persons who came up, because a lot of persons were working in the hotel industry where they weren't employed at that time. And we were able to help them. At least they were able to say, I had my checks for the year. So we really want to tell you that, when you put money into the Angola Cancer Society, is helping somebody who's really going through this situation.
So let me ask you a question. One of the things that we're going to run in, Capjaluca just opened, for example, 4 Seasons open. People are back to work in the hustle and bustle a little sooner than before, because we usually come in November, but this year is a little sooner. For those that can't break away to go and get these checks, would you run something again in November to get the what do you call it, the clinical exams done?
Okay, one of the things that we have just done, and thank you for saying that, because I told you I wear more than one hat. I just had a health fair for 4th Season. I think it was in July. I had 4th Season, and August I had Marijuana. And I just not too long did a health fair for Anglic.
Okay, nice.
So basically we could go around and we can do, so last you reach out to me, we organize it and we do health fairs for the various organizations.
And that is great, because I like where you went with that one, because you know, something may be happening and you may miss out, and you don't want to necessarily wait till the following year to be able to do, because you might still be working at that time, but you go to them.
Yeah, we
meet you where you are, and I think that's important, because a lot of times persons say, I don't have the time to go, I can't afford to take off time from work. But we keep saying it, but I don't think it actually sinks in that health is wealth, and you don't necessarily realize it until you don't have it. It's one of those things that, again, it take me even back to eating the healthy foods. When you tell persons, and I'm always mindful of this, you tell persons you're gonna pay it one way or the other, either now or to the doctor, but they're not thinking, if you don't have it, you're not thinking that far down the road about the doctor. You're thinking about the here and the now, and so we have to be able to find that balance and meet people where they are. And sorry, just with in terms of the contribution to the Cancer Society, I'm listening to you, and I'm listening and knowing that cancer has no face. And the one thing that came to mind when you say that is the person you're helping may very well be yourself. You don't know,
that
because
is true.
The person today you may be given, but you don't know that tomorrow you may be the one needing to be on that receiving end. So yeah.
Right. And we have helped a lot of persons over the years. And one of the things that I want to say, that's why I really want to say a big thank you. And we always say thank you, because we have never said no to anyone.
Wow.
Those persons that came forward, we have always assisted them. And we have an area now where social development actually sends them to the society. But we always try to say, you know what, we will try to meet you at your need.
How long has the Anguilla Cancer Society been around?
Since 2012.
Since 2012.
So 10 years.
And you've never said no in 10 years?
No.
Wow, that's
always
amazing.
help someone.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are there any fundraising activities that you have, maybe a calendar of activities that you do throughout the year, that persons can say, okay, I can look out for this, so I know that I have this opportunity to give at that point in time?
Okay, persons can give at any time. But I mean, for those last 3 years, I know a lot of people don't realize that COVID was so long. But for those last 3 years, we had social distancing and all those different things.
Right.
But normally what we do is we start the year by looking at pap smears, because that is, what's called colorectal. So basically you have, we start with pap smears, then we go into February is World Cancer Day. So when you look at all the cancers, and then afterwards that we go up, because we have a calendar of cancers. So basically maybe you might hear some promote more than some, but there's a calendar of cancers, and then you'll find, I think colon is in March though. But you'll find that you have the different cancers. So, but you'll find that because we have a lot going on for breast cancer month and prostate cancer month, then you would think that it's just those two that you were talking about. But it's mostly all.
Okay.
I have, so just before we wrap up, and I know we're winding down, and
Wow.
Ivan, I can see you itching. But I know just by listening in the US in particular, in some of more developed countries, they deal a lot more with childhood cancers do we have high incidences of childhood cancers in Anguilla?
Not that I'm aware of. And also remember too with Anguilla, because we don't have what is called a cancer registry. That was one of the things that we have talked about for years, but it never came into fruition.
Why? We are so private?
I think in Anguilla we have persons going to the private doctors, you have persons going to outside. The government doctors, and some persons going outside. But there should be somewhere where you can capture those cancers, because you don't need a name, you just need, because basically after a while you can tell where you have, if you have a cluster in certain areas, you know, if you see, okay, like for instance, from this registry you see you have 6 cancers in West End, and it is the same kind, and you realize, and it's in the same area, you can say, well, this is a cluster here, we need to investigate what is going on or whatever. But in Anguilla you don't have that. So if we can have a cancer registry of some sort, and this is one of the things that Anguilla Cancer Society have talked about over the years. We had even went up to the ministry level, but it never came into fruition. And this is something that, because you don't only need to have you don't even have to be just cancer. You can have it as a chronic disease registry. When you look at whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure.
That makes so much sense.
Yes. So you're looking at all the various chronic diseases. HIV, you name all of them. So at the end of the day, you have a more, you can represent in terms of stats what is really going on.
So you have a clearer picture.
Right, because a lot of times in Anguilla you hear that, okay, we have an increase in cancers, but we can only tell from what is captured through the hospital.
Right.
Because I can get that information in terms of the numbers, what is captured through the hospital, but that might not be the entire registry or true picture.
And actually that leads right into the second part that I was going to go into, which is you do hear that there are higher instances of cancer now. And as you say, we don't have a true picture to be able to definitively see that this is the case. Has there been any study done? Granted that we're saying that we're seeing more, again, we can't be definitive with that. But granted that we're saying that we're seeing more, and we do know that we're seeing them younger and younger, has there been any sort of study commissioned into why this is happening?
I think that would have to come from the ministry level, and just maybe when y'all have another show, maybe saying that the Premier is the Minister of Health, maybe you can, even from that level, because being honest, these things that come seriously at talking about health, it would have more fruit if it comes from that level, because then you go through the whole format in getting the study done. Because out there in society you hear a lot of things. You hear it is the radiation, you hear it's the food, you hear this and hear that. We have had several meetings over the years, but this is just my view. I personally believe that there needs to be some study done on what is really going on in Anguilla, because actually right now you're seeing more and more younger persons, and to me that is alarming.
It is extremely alarming, and I'm happy that you went there, because the reality is that you don't see the seed grow, you just see the tree. You don't see how deep the roots run, you just know the strength of it when you try to push it down. And I'm fearful that this little cancer tree that we are trying to prune so it doesn't grow, the roots are run a lot deeper and a lot stronger than we think. So I wholeheartedly support that we need to look into it from the ministry level. It needs to be a national concern right now, because it shouldn't come to a point where we're quote unquote having to fight a pandemic, an endemic, or whatever mix you have, that we come together and do it together. This is why I alluded to earlier, like, I would like to see the walks a bit more. I'm actually excited. I go to the gym practically every morning. with my cousin, and every morning we're going back home. Kayla was like, "Ivy, you don't understand. I like to see this because there are people just walking the streets now. There are a lot more young men into cycling. There are a lot more women into, shout out to Hillary, shout out to Duke Queen, shout out to those trainers. They have a lot of women now extremely active, and I know these guys look at the food component of it as well. I think we've gone away from even the play in school. I remember I used to run up and down. Children don't do that no more. They walking around with their spray ground bag and their phone. They're looking down at it all day. Whereas we were playing cricket, we were playing rounders, everything. You were always moving. I know there's been movie about. I know there's been all kind of things. I want to see a bit more of that happening because, like you said, yes, we have to look at our food, but look at our activities and how much we put into exercise. All our jobs now are sit down.
Yeah, we have a very sedentary lifestyle. Like you just.
I think it's something that we have to look into from the top down as well. Like I remember, I know I'm probably jumping and stealing his thunder. He's ready to come back actually. The Honorable Paul Sec, Mr. Merrick Richardson, he wants to roll out a plan to get 10 million steps in Angola. Like
that'd be great.
Yeah,
I think we did spoke.
We want to get he's raised the number. He wants everybody, so we just need a central plate where we collect all this data. Like this is what we need to start doing. We can be number one in the Caribbean for health.
Yes.
Not just best beaches, not tourism,
and not bad health. Good health.
Not good health. Good health, because you could be number one for the bad health. Thank you very much, Geneva. But we could be number one for the good health.
Yes.
I mean, let's make a concerted effort to try to tackle this head on. Let's start with the education. I want to see the PSHE classes start to talk about these things with the young. Do not look at me like that. Start to talk about these things with the young ladies. Start to talk about these things with the young men. You understand? I think when the Bible spoke about children, bringing children in the last days, people think it's an age thing. It's a mentality too. And a lot of us don't want to grow and get mature enough. These are the hard conversations that we should have.
And I think we can have it, though, because we have a good set of persons, whether men and women, into health, as you say. And I must take this opportunity to say thank you to Hillary, because last week I was away on a workshop, but he did call me up in relation to doing something for breast cancer, because every year he wants to do, he has that passion, and he did the exercise session. So I want to say a big thank you. So being honest, we have persons that can come on board, do a collaborative effort, and we can really get some exercise and different things going in Angola.
So let's I don't like to put things off, but we're in November. We have breast cancer month. No, trust me, we're in November. I so far into the next week is finished. We're in November, if you're being honest. Then people go on into Christmas, they're going to eat up the ham and all that type of stuff.
But next month is diabetes awareness.
Okay,
so we can still have, and I'm sure they normally have a walk.
Well, let's do one next month. Let's do one December. Let's start fresh in January. Every single month, let's do one. Let's just organize it. If it come with 10, if it starts with 10, next month you have 15, 20. By summer, you're going to have 1,536 people because they're getting ready to go on the road to parade. But let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to carry this message back to the Angola Cancer Society, and maybe we can get other persons coming on board.
Let's do it. If you volunteer me for one more thing.
If Ivan is putting it out there, then Ivan is raising his hand. Because, as we look at the time and as we wrap up, I always want to say thanks, especially to our radio stations that give us the additional time that we take from you. Ivan is clearly volunteering himself, and so
let me say this.
When he volunteers,
let me say this.
We take it through.
I know you can get that word in, but let me say this. I firmly believe that the Government Information Service should operate as such.
Correct.
Government information is not just what's happening or happened in government. Is supporting efforts and causes like these. The government Facebook page, just one platform, has 8,000 likes and about 1,000, 2,000 something more followers. That's about 10,000 people if you really look at the numbers. The engagement on the government page is extremely, extremely high. I went to the school today, right? Had a little situation to deal with. And there's a young man who has a TikTok. I gotta shout him out now. You can go follow him. Give him a little plug. His TikTok name is Can't Find Sean, but Find is a number 1, right? That's what the children into. This guy has a video, one TikTok video on his page that has 152,000 views. Wow. This guy is 13. Then you have persons like Derenique, who have thousands of followers on YouTube. There's avenues. That's where he's going right now. So we're even. I'm not gonna say this just here before Vaughn call me and say, Ivan, what you doing? But government is looking at the channels that we employ to get information out. And yes, the Cancer Society would have their page, would have their resources and stuff, but send it over to government too. And I will make sure you get distributed.
So Ivan does that.
Yes.
So, again, we've exceeded our time.
Over and over is your fault.
But before we go, I really just want to say a huge thank you, Mrs. Gomes, for being here. And your role is dual. You did a bit of the Cancer Society, but there was also the educational aspect. And I think it's something and a lot that our viewers and listeners can take in.
Yes, definitely.
We have some dates. Ivan, you get those dates up on the screen.
Carvel, our engineer, producer.
we can get those out there. But again, just to repeat, in case someone is just tuning in at the very end, we have let's see if I remember correctly. We have Friday the 21st at 10 a.m. and that is at Central
Polyclinic.
Monday 24th October. And that is at the Western Polyclinic, also known as South Hill Clinic, at 1 p.m. And Welch's Polyclinic at
Tuesday,
right? Tuesday, 25th at 10 a.m.
Listen, I don't know, but I think you had a really, really excellent social studies
and
teacher.
also, don't forget the breast cancer walk is on Friday the 21st at 4 p.m. starting from the gazebo in the valley. We're going to be walking up to the Little Dix roundabout and back. We're asking everyone to come out and support the walk.
Come out in your pink, your blue, your orange, your green. Every color you want. Let's paint the town. Let's bring awareness. Let's do our part. You know what you should have done? You should have get a sponsor to give $2 for every person that walk or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So we got plans.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another excellent episode of Progress Report. We thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. But most importantly, we thank our guest, Mrs. Jennifer Gomes. It has been my esteemed pleasure to have you in our studios here. Our esteemed pleasure to have you in our studios here at Progress Report. I know for a fact that you'll be back. There are some things we didn't touch on yet, and this is what happens at Progress Report. Gleniva tell me go call people. I call them like I did today, and then she gonna tell you you're always welcome to come back because she want to get you here first. So the next one might be a little bit tougher, but we'll make it work. All right, so you're gonna be back.
Yes, thank you.
You'll be back.
Yes,
perfect. Everybody will be back. Ladies and gentlemen, tune in next time for another wonderful episode of Progress Report.
Thank you.
Thank you.